Today we're going to continue with our exposition of the document that has been prepared by a drafting committee of prominent evangelicals with a call to unity among evangelicals in the gospel. And part of that document is a list of 18 affirmations and denials regarding the content of the biblical gospel. And so far we've covered the first 5 of those affirmations and denials, and now we will move to number 6. The 6th affirmation reads as follows: We affirm that faith in Jesus Christ as the divine Word, or Logos, the second person of the Trinity, co-eternal and co-essential with the Father and the Holy Spirit, is foundational to faith in the gospel. We deny that any view of Jesus Christ which reduces or rejects his full deity is gospel faith or will avail to salvation. Obviously, what is in view here in this affirmation is the central importance of the deity of Christ as being an essential point of the New Testament gospel. As I've said before, the content of the gospel as we find it in the New Testament focuses its attention chiefly on the person and the work of Jesus Christ. And though we distinguish between the person of Christ and his work, we understand that we dare not ever separate them, because it is the significance of his person that makes his work valid and effectual. And also in and through his work, we gain a deeper understanding of who he is, so that there's an intimate connection between who he is and what he does, what he accomplishes in our behalf. Now, the first thing that is affirmed about Jesus is that he is the divine Word. This is an explicit reference to the Gospel of John, chapter 1, in which Christ is identified with the eternal Logos, or Word, that John says in the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And later on in the prologue, we read, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. So this is a reference to what we call Logos Christology. And I'm writing that on the blackboard. Yesterday I did an interview with a radio station, and the person who was interviewing me asked me about this business of my writing on a chalkboard, which cannot be seen over the radio, and wanted to know why I did that. And at the same time said that when I abandoned it for a short session that he missed the sound of the chalk running up and down the blackboard. And I said, well, I could plead as my excuse that we have a live audience and I try to illustrate what I'm saying by writing on the board, but that's not really it. It's my psychological crutch. I just can't teach without a blackboard, and if Rush Limbaugh can rustle papers over the radio, I can scratch on a blackboard with chalk. But in any case, this references to what we call Logos Christology, and the idea of the divine Word, or the eternal Logos that John speaks of in his gospel, dominated Christian theology for the first 3 centuries of church history. And of course there were crucial reasons for that. There's probably no place in the New Testament in which the deity of Christ is more clearly affirmed than in John's statements in chapter 1 of his gospel. And secondly, those who were philosophically oriented in the early church and were familiar with the traditions of Greek philosophy understood the loaded character of that term, logos, in classical Greek philosophy as the principle of transcendent coherence and order that brings everything together into a unified cosmos as we understand the world. Of course, for the Greeks, the logos was more of an abstract principle and was certainly not thought of as a person. And I don't mean to suggest for a moment that John just simply borrowed that term from the Greek philosophical culture and left it unchanged. They used a term that indeed was loaded philosophically, but in the process poured within it the Hebraic concept of a personal God.